Hello and welcome. We have made it to the end of the first round of the Fabul Gauntlet. My name is Rex Raoul. I'm here with Poydrek. Poydrek, has this been an exciting week for you as well?
It's been a long one, and some people might know I've been sort of running around the clock trying to get these restreams together, and yeah, it's been a very long week. Exciting one though.
Yeah, I can't even see you, but I can see the sweat mark on your forehead from all the work you've done. But we do have one more race to bring everybody tonight. We've got Minhthemage versus cassidymoen, and we're going to see what this brings to us.
Yeah, ready to start with 5 random objectives. Looks like a potential one where we might get a bit of shopping going straight up. Just looking at the video start.
Yeah, I think with Rydia, you're going to want some help at the beginning because with some help, she can do quite a lot of damage with her summons, but at her base level, she can't do much at all.
Yeah, only 30 hit points at level 1, and doesn't have a whole lot of anything. Has no spells. She needs that. She needs that initial jumping experience. But it's not just about her. It's about her compatriots who we're going to get at the start. Does that mean we're going to see? That could be a very big decision on where they go to start off with.
Oh, without a doubt. If they get somebody like Sid, then they can kind of not really worry as much about Rydia survivability, or you could just lean on Sid to be able to get the damage done and hopefully have Rydia alive at the end of the fight so that she can gain some levels. If she ends up with like a Porum, then you might need some extra help.
Or Teller.
Yeah,
Teller's not really a good damage dealer right now.
No, doing damage is going to be tough, but that Earth Crystal as the first item is going to help them out because it's going to open up a lot more loot at the beginning of the game that they've got potentially access to with the Troya Treasury being open now. So there's a whole lot more loot that they can buy or that they can find and then sell and then use to buy items like vampires or Boreases that they might find in the shops so that they can do some extra damage right at the beginning.
And our objectives: get Cecil, Waterfall Caves. I think CPU was there, Kenyatso, and I didn't see number 4.
4, unlock the sealed cave.
Nothing. It's really a boss hunt seed today. Those 2 bosses, CPU and Kenyatso. Cecil could be a bit of a interesting. Where the heck is he? But I'm a big. I'm not going to say hater of boss hunts, but I just know how difficult they are to find them.
Well, yeah, I mean, the seed is either going to be really kind or really unkind as far as what needs to be done in order to find these. If they're hiding in spots like on the Giant of Babel or the King Queen Evelyn spot on a magma key run, then that could be really rough. On the other hand, they might be at Mount Hobbs and like Fabul. I can't even think of it. It's the name of our event, Fabul, and I can't even think of it.
Yeah, my personal. Well, it's happened to me so much recently, but the one that's happened to me personally a lot is the one remaining boss that you need to be in that first place in the Tower of Zot, and you don't go there until really late because you can't find the Earth Crystal. That's not the case this time, but that's happened to me so much, and it's lost me races.
A couple of nice items that I saw in the Troya Treasury that the runners pick up: a Sylph Summon and a Dancing Dagger. A couple of real key items for Rydia to do damage early. The Dancing Dagger can be done at 0 MP. Just use it as an item and it'll do quite a bit of damage. And then once she has enough MP to cast Sylph, once it's cast, it doesn't drain the MP from her stock, so she can use it over and over again. Very good source of damage early in the game.
Yeah. Also saw a Mute Dagger there. So, Mute Dagger Not only does additional damage to mages when you attack with it, but it also gives a +5 wisdom boost, which is comparable to a wand, to a change rod or a Lilith rod. So it's not too bad for Rydia once that Sylph, once she's got that in MP for Sylph.
Yeah, especially if we can find a whip or a bow and arrow to back row glitcher, so that she can be versatile and either take advantage of that mage damage or the spell, the bonus from the wisdom, as you mentioned. A mute dagger is a really useful item all around.
This is a free waterfall. This is a very early check by minhthemage, and definitely well worth it with Warthag being here. So it looks like one of the objectives is going to be ticked off for him very quickly.
Yeah, I don't think our runners were going to be super concerned about that particular objective. It's a fairly early game boss check in general, and in free enterprise, if there's boss hunts anyways, this is a place that you'd want to dip. So it's not like you're going anywhere out of your way to check this. So this is just like make it one less objective that you need to do.
Yeah, this spot is very fast, and Teller is showing why people have Teller life in their emote notes area. But yeah, it's still nice to get this early the objective, because this spot can be difficult depending on the boss.
Let's see a couple things on Cassidy's side. Looks like the mage summon is the Mount Hob summon. Not the most useful. That Sylph is going to be something that the runners are going to be relying on a lot more than mage. Also, I saw when he was in Damsian Castle, we found a siren in there. And since sirens aren't guaranteed to be in shops anymore, it's really nice that you're able to pick up one there, and then you can choose when to use it to give the most boost of experience to your party.
Yeah. I've been seeing sirens a lot in the underworld, though. As you said, they aren't guaranteed, but they are not as rare under this particular flag set as, say, S Pro.
Sure. And now we've got Cassidy fighting that water hag as well. Probably with that speed, as you mentioned before, might be low in levels again, like Min was during the fight, but or low in HP levels during it, but should be able to get through the fight as long as they don't miss too often.
This is not a high accuracy team, even with that center spot. So they've both had issues trying to just do the free instances of damage to this Warthag to just win the fight.
Looks like Min might be heading over to Antlion Cave as the next place to check.
Yeah. I don't think either of them really expected to go into that fight and actually fight it. They just wanted to check the boss, just for later reference, because if they had, they might have equipped Rydia up a little better with that dancing dagger that they found, and used that instead, just to make it a little bit easier on them. And especially, they found some fairly decent defensive equipment for her. Chat was saying about a tiara they found, and so that would have been amazing against just that particular spot.
Speaking of amazing on both screens, on Min's side, we saw a curse ring found in Antlion Cave, and we see Rosa as the character on Cassidy's screen up on the top of Mount Hobbs. Very nice for both runners there.
Yeah, very mage heavy lineup so far, but not unwanted for sure. Rosa being, in general opinion, the best white mage of the game. If you got a few decent and bows and arrows for her, she will run away with the physical aspect as well early game.
Yeah, but this evil wall that's at the top of Mount Hobbs proven quite difficult for Cassidy. Um, don't like to see the desperation firebomb on Tello when he's got under 100 HP. That's unfortunate that that hit took place before that item could go off.
Yeah. Again, and not really equipping Rydia. That's personally what I sort of would say would be a good improvement for them, just to actually equip the characters as they're needed. Because without that, Rydia's not going to survive any hits right now.
Even with equipping, she might not survive, but if you equip her, at least there's that chance. So the Magus Sisters at the bottom of the Antlion Cave proving too much for Min. Going to be trying some other things before heading back there to see who the what the item is afterwards.
Yeah, Mega Sisters there. That spot is notoriously low in attack power, but magic attack isn't too bad for the enemy. So those spells in from Mindy would likely have been doing a fair amount of damage.
And we see Min resetting out of that evil wall fight. Going to go back to Antlion. It looks like would rather face the Mega Sisters than that evil wall at this point.
A little bit about the runners that we've got though. Because I was just having a quick check of their sort of profiles in their history with Final Fantasy IV Enterprise, because I was a little bit interested. minhthemage looks like a fairly newer runner, has done a few runs, but doesn't seem too experienced. Cassidy is a old hand at the game, but hasn't really run it for a year, maybe a year and a half. So we've got a very intriguing one of old style knowledge versus a new person and trying to get in.
Yeah, sometimes that old style can bite you worse than a new runner who would be burned just by not knowing or thinking that it's going to work one way where the new version changes things up. So we'll see. This is going to be, that does make for an interesting dynamic between the two runners, without a doubt.
Yeah, and a Bahamut summon in Antlion. We need levels on Rydia stat.
Yeah, when she's got enough MP to use that, it's going to really service the team well throughout the rest of the seed. But that, what is it, 80 or 90 MP to cast it?
60.
Same thing. It's a big number.
Yeah, especially when she's only got 10 right now.
Yeah.
She needs, I believe, level 13 or 14 to have enough MP to actually cast Bahamut.
Well, first things first, we need to get up to, what is it, the 20 MP that's required to cast Sylph.
That would also be nice. It's 25, so I believe 6 levels is enough for that. And Min's just playing about with actual random encounters in the Antlion spot. Not something you see every day.
You know, you've got to use what you've got available to you, and if you're having a tough time with some of the fights and the bosses, just a couple of experience levels might be what you need, and random encounters are often the fastest way to do that.
Yeah. It's odd, but if it works out, it'll definitely pay off for him.
And Rydia survives a fight.
For 2 levels. Well, it's a start.
Yeah, it's not nothing. And now it looks like Cassidy is also heading over to Antlion Cave, gonna see that we've got the Mega Sisters at the bottom there. Min ended up using a Gaia drum to take them out in one shot. Really smart to take use of an item that deals AoE damage to get rid of all 3 Mega Sisters in one fell swoop.
Not just AoE damage, but an AoE damage that pierces the reflect that gets put onto Cindy. Because there's a number of J items out there that still get reflected.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be using a Boreas or something on that one, but a Stardust or a Gaia Drum is going to be the way to go, I think.
Yeah. Starting out with the Firebomb, this is a better move. It's only going to do half the amount of health that Teller has, but they're still better than the 33 that it did when he's low health.
Agreed, and also it's probably more than Teller's going to do by hitting it with a stick. Or often his level 1 black magic does not do very much, especially against something that doesn't have an elemental weakness like that Evil Wall.
Yeah, and also has a counter attack, which, although it's just gradual petrification, it's still, if you hit it with enough spells, it's still going to be dangerous in the long run.
Right, especially if those spells aren't doing enough cumulative damage, then you're going to get more and more of that petrification. That's just going to be eating up. You're going to have to find a way to deal with that.
Yeah. Another thing that chat has sort of half mentioned, back row just back row in Lydia right now. She's got a fair amount of defense with that wizard robe now. She should be able to survive a little bit more, but not in the front row.
It's amazing how much more defense that back row offers in this game. It's really significant, and knowing when to use the front row and when to use the back row is a real important tool here in Free Enterprise.
Yeah. Hopefully, we will see him switch over to that sooner rather than later. Cassidy has got through the Mega Sisters fight. I used a Stardust item. Another one of those AoE attacks that pierces reflect. A little bit stronger than the Gaia Drum, but still very much worth the effort, worth the use there. Min having another hard time with the Evil Wall fight, deciding let's bail out on that for a bit. Let's go and check the Fabul fight. Maybe I can survive a little bit longer here.
I wonder if, as the chat would be suggesting, if Radio was in the back row, Min was using that dancing dagger, and that dancing dagger, if you're using it as an item, it doesn't matter if you're in the front or back row, it'll deal the same damage. So that's one thing to consider as well.
Yeah, it is considered a magical attack though, so it will proc the petrify counter from Evil Wall.
Yes, that's true. However, with the amount of damage that the dancing dagger is doing at that versus the amount of HP in that spot, I think it's generally worth it.
Yeah, that spot has around about 14 to 1500 hit points. Well, it's five dancing dagger attacks at the maximum will defeat it, and you've got about eight petrification spells to get through people to actually survive that. Plus, Teller has heal. You can just heal it off.
And we see at Fabul, we've got the most memorable leg in Final Fantasy IV, Rubicant, being the boss here. The not able to do enough damage before Glare takes out the party. Min's going to do a reset and is going to have to find something else. I wonder if we're going to see a change in strategy or if we're going to see some more grinding.
I think we're going to see a little bit more grinding on his part. Going back to Antlion, and I think he's not certain about the actual power of these two that he's got in his hands. He's just, it's probably not something he's dealt with as a start very often.
That's another thing that's a bit of a learning curve in Final Fantasy IV is Free Enterprise is making sure that you know what you need in order to deal with the early game with some of these characters. Both of these characters were featured in in the World Series of Free Enterprise last year what was called the reject percent, because these are characters that generally need a little bit more or certain circumstances in order to be good. So getting used to using these characters who are sometimes considered rejects is really important, and can really make it so that you can know how to get through a seed better, and not be struggling at the beginning sometimes.
Yeah, Cassidy has got through that evil wall fight and has picked up his Rosa, also picked up that light sword which we've seen on West Hobbs. Also had a black robe, although it picks up the wrong magic stack for Rydia. The defense power that it brings is essential right now for her.
And that's one of those questions that you've got to ask, because Tella actually can use it, because since it boosts the white magic stat, it can make his healing magic better if you want to go that route, or you can use that superior defense on Rydia. Either way, you've got a piece of equipment that is often chided, has some specific uses right now.
Yeah. I really want to see that thrown over to Tella later. You're more likely to use him as a white mage, as a Bacchus, as a berserk caster, or possibly life in. So that black robe could be good for him. But for now, Rydia I think is much better, since she needs to survive to get those Bahamut casts off.
I could see that. That evil wall really likes picking on Rydia over on Min's side.
Yeah. And again, I think there's the inexperience. Just I haven't. They haven't put them in the back row. Once he remembers how to do that, I think he'll be fine.
And who knows? This could definitely be nerves at play here, because we don't. If Min is relatively new and hasn't been restreamed many times, might be under pressure, or just the being in a one-on-one race situation like we've got in this can be nerve-wracking if you're not used to the pressure.
Yeah. 600 experience there for 4 of the creams. That's actually not too bad. But that will help him a whole lot.
Yeah, those creams requiring the use of magic in order to beat them makes it a lot easier when you've got access to the lit one from Tella in order to beat them.
Meanwhile, Cassidy has gone over to the vanilla demist location and has found elements. Not one of the required bosses, but lets Bahamut take a stroll out anyway.
Yeah, not a lot of experience that's worth, but it looks like Cassidy wanted to defeat it so that he could go ahead and loot the cave as well.
Oh yes, as Simbu is pointing out, the Mist Cave exit. Enjoy your yellow. Next up is Baron Town. So likely going to check the character in the inn and see if they can get that. And Min's having another shot at this evil wall. Got a few more levels on Rydia, probably about 100 HP now. No, 90. That should be enough to actually survive it. Survive one hit.
Yeah, it looks like it was doing about 75 damage. So it'll probably survive one hit. Hopefully that'll be enough.
$42 damage, so yeah, that's that one hit, and that was probably a low roll, so the next ones are going to be a little bit more dangerous. but I think Evil War only needs one more Dancing Dagger hit to end this. Yeah, there it goes.
Excellent. Well done. And Cassidy wisely going out of Baron Town to save after doing that shopping and looting before heading up to the Baron Inn fights. And it looks like we've got King Queen Evelyn in the first fight. So that's it's a kind of unfortunate that you get one of your free fights here because this is usually a free fight no matter who the boss is. So kind of unfortunate for our runners there. Looking to get Kane added to the party, somebody who's going to be very much appreciated that we get a good physical beater.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what Kane weapons we've found. I know we've seen some for Cecil, but Kane, I think we're still lacking a couple of things here.
I think there was a slumber sword. I don't think that's really great, but I think that's an upgrade over his basic spear.
It is an upgrade, but it's not one you really want to rely on in the long term.
Oh yeah, and Baka Shinobi in our chat reminding us we did see a rune axe.
Oh well, there you go. That's definitely a weapon he can use very well. Free fire twos from the king. He disappears, and the queen goes down with him. So that's the first fight out of the way. The second one.
That Octomam? Yeah.
Mm.
This is kind of a rough spot for Octomam early in the seed because this spot hits pretty hard and is pretty fast. However, the Octomam gets slower the more you hit it. So if we can survive early, then we might have a decent shot at this one. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Min does have enough MP to summon Bahamut and use so to defeat Rubicon. So we're off to the races. Both of our runners. I don't know if we actually verbalized it, but the reward for beating Fabul was getting the hook. So we might have a hook seat on our hands here.
I'm not seeing a whole lot of early hit points for a good hook dive right now. Kane has a fair amount later on, but early up he's actually the worst HP growth of all the melee fighters. And Rosa gets a lot later, but not really that much early. And Rydia and Teller, you're definitely not going to see a whole lot of HP from them throughout the game.
And so Cassidy says, we'll try that Baron Inn fight later. Let's go to Mount Ordeals instead. Ordeals is going to be a boon if we find a Cecil, especially since we found that light sword earlier. It's also going to give Tella all of his spells, so that's an incentive to go ahead and do Mount Ordeals. And this is going to get some extra experience on all of our runners, on all of our characters as well.
Yeah, could see some difficult bosses up here since we know we've already got the hook. These other spots could be gated by, say, Wyvern, Golbears, Offering Soldiers, though I don't think they're going to worry. Cassidy's going to worry about them.
This is another spot that's generally one of the easier boss spots, the first boss at Mount Ordeals. So to see one of the easier fights here is again one of those where it's like, does this mean I'm going to have to fight the harder bosses in the harder boss locations? And that's just going to be rough all around.
Yeah, that spot has very low attack power, and the guards themselves normally don't hit very hard anyway, so that's sort of a double whammy of no danger at
all. We see Min launching the hovercraft at this point. I wonder if Min is going to head over to Evelyn and going to check that character.
Might be worth the shot. He's been having issues with attack powers and everything like that. So he might be thinking, I can boost up my team's power this way if I get something like Fu or an edge. So, and if he finds that, that's great for him.
It is possible that it'll be Edge. Unlikely, because we did see Edge sleeping in Baron Inn, or excuse me, the Kaipo Inn. Excuse me. But there is going to be one duplicate character in this team.
And there's always that possibility. Cecil might be there as well. That might guide him up Ordeals. And as we've seen, that's a fairly free space to get some good experience at the moment. So it would be good for him to just take that on.
Ooh, and Min now has put his characters in the back row, so that's going to be nice for physical damage dealers attacking his mages.
I think he's just remembered this actually is a thing that can happen, and went, why didn't I do this earlier?
Right.
Meanwhile, Cassidy's just going, well, I've got this Bahamut summon. Everything seems to be weak against Dragon Breath right now. Do I have any reason to not use it?
And the item at the top of Mount Ordeals was the Rat Tail, which with the hook is something that we can check right now.
Yeah, and that could still be our Magna Key for the way underground, or an easier route underground.
And it looks like Min was able to get that Bahamut off on Octomem, so we have some differing routes, because now Min has completed something that Cassidy hasn't, and Cassidy's completed something that Min hasn't. We see the Pan, and Min's going to be rewarded with Kane as well.
Yeah, very well done. Getting that awareness to just cast Bahamut. Cassidy did not have the MP at that point in time to actually do that. So that was what held him back a little bit. But I think Min's getting back into his stride and remembering a lot more about the game and going, right, calm down, just play my game. Anything that happens.
Yeah, gotta feel a lot more confidence now.
He's likely going to be falling upon the same sort of things as Cassidy has, and that's just Bahamut and everything, but that's a perfectly valid strat right now.
Looks like there was a lot of great defensive equipment for Kane in Min's inventory. Also had a Blizzard Spear, which is not a bad spear to start with either.
No, definitely not a bad starting weapon for Kane. We're going to be seeing, we might even see a few enemies that are still weak against that. So that's not bad. Cassidy is going to go and get his Kane now, and Min's checking out the Mist Cave, probably looking to see if there's a boss available for him. Seeing as we're now half hour into the seed, what's your first initial reactions to how things have been going for them?
I think they were thrown a little bit of a curveball with these kind of underpowered characters to start with, and so it was a little bit of a challenge right at the beginning. Now that they've got enough MP and Bahamut online for Rydia, as long as she can survive basically the first wave of attacks from most bosses, I don't think there's going to be much of a problem until we get to some major bosses, like, for example, the Rubicante spot in the Tower of Babel, if this ends up being a hook seed. Other than that, I think they're playing pretty well. They're making sure that they clear everything. But we're still getting that CPU find is something that's going to be on the back of the minds of everybody's of both of our runners here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It was a slow start, likely because of the characters we had, but as things have gone along, it's got a whole lot better for them, and I think we're going to see that just shine over in the next few bosses. The only stumbling point I see yet, as you said, is the hook route. We don't know what's down there yet. We could have some nastiness waiting for us.
Right, and I imagine that we're going to see a rat tail turn in shortly from Cassidy here, and we still have that earth crystal, so that might be the way to the magma key as well. So we're not definitely in a magma or a hook seed at this point, but the more places that we check and it's not the magma key, the more likely it is.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that Earth Crystal. Earth Crystal is a couple of characters. There could be someone very nice up there. It could be our Cecil. So getting to Cecil right now would be an immense boon to everyone.
That rat tail is a heroine robe. So we've got a couple of options. We've got the samurai bow that we found for Rosa earlier. So we can make her into a nice physical threat with that. Alternatively, if we find a dragon whip or something like that for Rydia, we can make her into a physical threat. I would imagine neither one is really necessary if we're going to be leaning on Bahamut at this point, but those are just some options that we've got out there.
Yeah, definitely. I see Rosa being a physical dealer, damage dealer right now, with Rydia being that Bahamut caster. You don't need to heal if you're killing the enemies quicker than they can kill you.
Yeah, the best white mage is punching really hard.
And lying in the second spot, it's not too bad. It's a little bit more dangerous than the first spot, but when you've got Bahamut, he shakes in fear and then just disappears slowly.
And lying in that spot would actually, I think, be more difficult if you had a team with like Sid and Cecil and everybody like that, because if you've got physical attacks that where you don't have an alternative like Kane's jump, that's what's going to trigger the counter attack from the Antlion. With this page of this team of mages and Kane, getting around the counter attack is really easy. So all you have to deal with are vanilla attacks, and with the amount of damage you're dealing out, especially with Bahamut, it's just not scary.
No, not at all. I believe if the counter attack comes off of a magic stat, or it's a fixed damage. So and that particular spot actually has better magic defense than physical attack. So sorry, magic attack than physical attack. So
I meant the physical attack from the fight command. That's
yeah,
I might have misspoke on that, but yeah, that was my
you sort of didn't. I was thinking about the actual counter, what type of damage it actually is, and it's definitely more dangerous than the physical attacks that it would give. So you don't want to be throwing it out. So if you've got a way around it, brilliant. If you don't, you're going to be in a bit more of a dangerous situation.
Then we are on the same page. That's always good.
And lion symbol. What the counter attacks are? Is it magical attack based or is it fixed?
I always thought it was physical. Oh.
Physical based but magic damage.
Oh, that's weird. I always felt like it was fixed, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's a lot more difficult to make a good calculation based on that.
Agreed. Well, Cassidy's up at the Tower of Zut, and the first boss is Odin.
This is really the first spot where Bahamut isn't the answer. However, I've seen a Zeus Rage, I've seen a Silk Whip, and we still got Bahamut. So I don't think this is going to be an issue.
Yeah, they should have enough firepower. Plus, Tella's got his full suite of spells, has access to Lit 2, Lit 3, to do plenty of extra damage on Odin as well, if that's what they want to do. Yeah, let me see. It looks like Virus. So Virus is another option. Virus has the shortest charge time of all of them, and does reasonable damage as well. The lightning spells will hit the weakness, but they don't have the short charge time of the Virus.
Min is now finished up his ordeals. Going to go and check that Vatel. We've already seen that it's a white shirt. I don't think he's going to be able to get to there from that side of the forest.
Yeah, and if one Bahamut doesn't do it, the second Bahamut is going to finish off Odin. So Cassidy's through that. And we're going to see who the characters are up here real shortly.
So I'm just checking on Simbu's calculation there. That makes sense why you don't see a whole lot of damage from Antlions counters as in pretty much any spot, because there's only one multiplier for it. So yeah, it's a good bit of knowledge that could come in useful later. At least for myself, I'm a big believer of learning how the game runs.
Well, we found a Cecil. That is going to be required. And Sid is the other character here. So Cecil, I imagine, at this point, after completing Ordeals, is almost a no-brainer to keep in your party. But we'll see if they want to keep Sid as well.
I don't think Sid's going to be kept unless it's a swap out for Tella. I don't see any of these characters really being dumped. Kane has got a fair good amount of good equipment. Cecil, you've got a fair amount as well. Rydia, Bahamut, you don't really want to get rid of that at this stage of the game. And Rosa is going to be just good for you throughout.
And Cassidy's decided to keep Sid in over Tella. What do you make of that choice?
Personally, I don't like it. Mostly because Sid comes into conflict with both Cecil and Kane in terms of what gear they can equip. Because Cecil can, because Sid uses up to Dragoon gear. Cecil and Kane both do as well, and they're much better in the long run for that equipment.
I tend to agree. In this situation, I think I'd usually rather keep Tella. However, Sid does have a lot more survivability. He just
You went robot there for a bit.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me disconnect and reconnect real quick.
Yeah, not a problem. Cassidy is in this second fight with the Baron Guards. Not too dangerous. You do need to be aware of the counters, but it looks like he's muted them, so they're not going to be able to say anything.
Yeah, he used a mute bell at the start of the fight to make sure that the counters aren't going to be dangerous. So that's a heads-up play right there.
Edward and Bahamut. You're definitely happy to see Bahamut. Edward, for these two, not as much.
Right, Edward definitely has his uses, but a lot of them are ones that are kind of tricky, and unless you've practiced them, they're not going to be fruitful. Earlier in this week, I definitely saw Edward strats being used in the Zermus fight in a couple of different races, but those are some fights that you really need to know exactly what you're doing in order to make them work right.
Yeah, and it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of game knowledge. I don't think we're going to see that sort of thing here today with these runners. Not that they're not going to be able to understand them or do them. It's just I don't think they've been practicing enough, if anything.
And to Belletta in the chat and anybody else who might be wondering, unfortunately for like funness, we do not have the spoon flag in the Fabul Gauntlet. So Edward cannot equip the spoon. Otherwise, that would be another way that he would have a lot of value for our runners. But we figured for this race, or not we, the admins who made this, Edward with the spoon is just, I mean, you just can't beat him. He's just too strong. And I'm not even really kidding.
No, that spoon does make Edward a overpowered person, even more so with adamants, which is also why they're not available for anyone. But adamants is just overpowered in general anyway.
So we see the darkness crystal being got by Cassidy here, and this is but before we talk about that, I gotta mention that's the alt gauntlet over on Min's thing, and the alt gauntlet is one of my favorite things in this version. But at any rate, the darkness crystal being found is another reason why you might not have wanted to ditch Tella, because you've got access to a D machine grind at this point. But without Tella, you don't have somebody who can cast weak.
Well, they do still have the option of getting him back from the Tower of Wishes, since that when it's not perma perma gone if they get sent away. Okay, so that might be on the on the docket later. Swapping out Yarn for Sid though, changing up his team quite a bit.
Well, if Cassie was concerned about the equipment drop between the characters, as you had mentioned, might be a reason to not keep Sid. Yang's equipment pool and doesn't overlap nearly as much with Kane and Cecil as Sid's does. So that would be one reason to switch them out.
Yeah, not quite as much, but some of Yang's better equipment does give a boatload of strength, so it's not too bad on Cecil and Kane. They are, I'm going to say, they're equipment hogs. They like to wear everything.
Right. Yeah, and some of the stuff, like your power robes, your Zeus gauntlets, strength rings, bandanas, of course, all of them can use that. But when it comes to like the rings that Yang can have, you won't necessarily be seeing equipped on the other ones, and the Dragoon gear is not going to be equipable by Yang. So
while Min's going through this particular Gauntlet here, has had to actually pick up Edward because that was his 5th character. But the good thing about this particular spot for the Gauntlet is that normally, without it, you wouldn't get experience. But because the way the alternative Gauntlet has had to be coded in, all this experience is available.
Yeah, this is something that's actually a lot. This is a big difference in this spot, because your grind options, you've got your trap chest, and then if you're not have the experience to get there, you either have to leave and do some other things, or just rely on random encounters. Here's a way that you can deal with getting some more experience before the Rubicante fight for free, basically.
Yeah, and No, yesterday my Rubicante fight was Kenyotso. I didn't have a whole lot of levels going in. However, my King Queen Evelyn was also the alternative Gauntlet, so I was able to pick up my levels right before one of the hardest fights you can have in the game.
This fight is proving to be somewhat difficult for Min too, running down to just Kane, but luckily he's got all that good defensive equipment, so he's not taking much damage from these monsters, but nobody else in the party is benefiting from the experience right now either.
No. The good thing for him is that the sorcerer is summoning a dragon, and Kane is okay against dragon enemies right now.
Yeah, his Dragoon equipment helps out against that, but that Thunder is still doing more than the single-digit damage that the physical attacks are doing.
Cassidy's gone into Evelyn Castle for a little bit of a boost in levels, fighting some of these trap chests.
Probably wants to get Yang up above baseline levels after recruiting him. There might also be some just looting once some more equipment too.
Yeah, Min's in a little bit of bother here. One more Thunder will actually kill him. Yeah. There he
That
goes.
is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he probably would have been okay if he had killed the sorcerer before those blade men and didn't have to deal with that dragon. So I wonder if he's just going to switch up his strategy a little bit, or if he wants to grind before doing that fight. Looks like he's going in again, or at least thinking about it.
Using those Soma drops on radio, maybe thinking about a double casting of Bahamut rather than the single one that he's got available to him right now.
Another thing to consider would be utilizing that Sylph summon, which doesn't use MP and can be healing some of the characters throughout the course of the fight. That might be a way to go as well.
Definitely an option. Doesn't have really the same option with Rosa right now, because her Cure 2s that she's got available are sort of being nerfed by the heroin robe that got put on to her.
Yeah, so Rosa doesn't have the healing power that she normally would. It does look like Rydia is equipped with a whip. I'm not sure which whip it is. If it is the Dragon Whip, then her magic stat might be affected by that as well.
I haven't seen a Dragon Whip, but it might be a Flame Whip, which does very similar. It's not quite as... not on the same levels as the Dragon Whip. I think Dragon Whip is minus 10 to Wisdom, while the Flame Whip is minus 5. But it's still reducing that damage output. Oh, and Daphos is saying yes, it was a Dragon Whip. So yeah, that's just increasing the amount now.
After that Lamia beat up on his party good, we see the reset. It looks like he wants right back in.
Yeah. I think this is another sort of bit of inexperience. Not entirely certain of what the equipment can do, what the equipment does, and what the alternate gauntlet actually does here. Yeah. You don't see these enemies very often.
Right, and I think that's one of the things that makes the alt gauntlet so interesting, is that these are not things that you're usually prepared for. a lot of different strategies. Since it's all the other bosses, you might be able to use your strategy in to some degree, no matter where they're found. But the alt gauntlet is going to be different every single place that it is. So there's no one way to get through it.
Yeah, it always covers along the. I think it covers along 5 of the 8 potential enemy encounters that is on the table. I think it's the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th.
Oh, so all I need to do is memorize the encounter tables for every place.
Yes, and once you've done that, you can know what's going to be up against you. And that doesn't change between the locations. And so you're always going to fight these particular 5 in this spot.
Right. That is true. That's good to know. If you have so like when you had the alt gauntlet in this spot, these were the same 5 fights that you were fighting there.
They are, yes. They're in exactly the same order as well.
Yeah.
So as long as you're, it's all a matter of experience and saying, right, I know what this is going to be. You're not going to get this all the time, unfortunately, because there's a lot of spaces. There's a lot of enemies that you're not going to understand until you actually fight them, and you can't remember everything in this game. It's just not possible.
Right. It's a big game. There's a lot in there. A lot of weird things in this game too.
Cassidy's making good work through Evelyn. I think that was his last trap chest that he's gone through. His levels are much more advanced, so he's going to head down the route, the hook path next, and I think he's going to have a much easier time.
The other option would be hunting around on the moon for the Magna Key, but I think going the hook route seems to be what's in store for Cassidy here.
Yeah, the moon right now would be dangerous because we've seen very few of those more difficult bosses. The moon could have all of them.
I would say the only reason that you do that is if you had an hourglass in your inventory and you had that one siren and you would go do a double full dragon grind to get your levels up, and then you might be able to do the moon at this point, but I don't even know if it would be worth it for that. But I mean, that would just be an option. I think it's a moot point.
However, as chat pointed out, and I did notice, Cassidy sold the siren, I believe, by accident.
Oh, that's rough.
Mindo is now through that alternative gauntlet. I would not blame him if he goes back and saves right now. Actually, I would recommend it.
Yeah, even though Bahamut is a pretty easy fight to know the script and everything, but it looks like Min is just going to go ahead and do it. I tend to agree with you. Save just in case. Only 4 star veils too, so.
Yeah, and these star veils,
they don't last forever.
No, and I believe they're only going to get through 2 Mega Nukes from Bahamut at the most. So, yeah, and you can only cap out the reflected damage at 9999. So, and this spot has what, 25,000 hit points? So, might be okay.
Yeah, as long as those star veils last through the next Mega Nuke, I think Min will be fine. If they wear off, then I think it's going to be rough.
I only did 3,000 with that particular Bahamut summon, so still needs a little bit extra.
Yeah, that Dragon Whip, reducing that damage that Rydia can be doing with that Bahamut summon. Here comes the moment of truth. The Mega Nuke, or the Starveils survived that, so we've got the 2, and that's enough. Min is through, and it's going to be the first of our featured runners in the underground.
Very well played. I just keeping those mega nukes at bay while utilising his own. And just getting through that fight, he's going to probably breathe a sigh of relief that he's got through now.
And really got through these 2 fights at relatively low levels. When you take a look at, especially compared to what Cassidy's got, Min's at much lower levels and is already through. So,
yeah, still also has advantage that he's got that siren, and so he might just go out and say, right, that was difficult for me. I'm not going to survive much in the underworld right now. Let's get some levels. Let's use that. Let's use that siren.
Go and crack an egg. Yeah, that's oftentimes. I know for me, and I've seen a lot of other runners do it. If they find a siren in a chest in the overworld, they'll go ahead and use it on an egg very early in as far as the underworld routing, so that they can do some more things in the underworld, like a dwarf castle, like a tower, without having to worry about their levels nearly as much.
The alternative, though, is he might just say, right, I've got this pen. This is a free check. This is a free checks. That should be my first option.
Yeah, there's a lot of places to go. It looks like opting for at least a heal in the back of Dwarf Castle first. That might mean a Dwarf Castle check or a tower check.
But I must admit, though, I know that you're rooting that the first check that anyone should make is down in Tomra.
Yeah, the fact that that's not the first place that Vin's going is really upsetting me, but I'll try to keep my composure.
As long as they go there at some point during the race, you'll be fine.
I checked mine on my race, and I wasn't even restreamed, so... Oh, but we do find something really interesting in Min's screen. Looks like the first boss in Dwarf Castle is going to be demist. And with no free lunch, that does mean that's going to yield another key item check in Mist once this is complete. So this is a big find for Min.
Yeah, definitely nice. This spot does hit fairly hard for his low levels. Only 8,000 hit points, so should be able to get through it fairly well. Yeah, I think he'll be fine as long as he can get these attacks off between the times when Demist goes hiding.
Yeah, that's the key. When you're dealing with attacks that are so MP heavy, like here, you're just the timing was off for Min, and so there's going to be a Bahamut that's not going to hit Demist, and that's just 60 MP that has gone to waste now.
I'm not certain. I know it sounds odd, but I'm not too sure if the MP disappears after a wasted summon like that.
I guess I've never checked.
There's been occasions when it has, and also occasions when it hasn't. For me.
Well, I'll tell you what. It would not surprise me if Final Fantasy IV is inconsistent about something.
It does happen fairly often, for sure.
You can see Demist even dealing pretty high damage to Kane. That Dragoon gear does not protect against the damage from Demist.
Because for all intents and purposes, Demist is not coded as a dragon.
Yeah, Dragon Whip doesn't do extra damage. Dragoon Spear doesn't do extra damage. It's just a miss. It's not a D.
She is a holy creature.
Yeah, don't use white against Demist. I've done that. I've done that.
Yeah, Min's just gone back and cracked back egg. Definitely a good play to make. Dragon Whip finishes off the job fairly easily.
Yeah, get a good chef experience on one fight there. So
yeah, I would like to see him actually do this particular play. Go and check the free key item in Land of Summer Monsters. Check what the bosses are. Go and check the pan and items. Then go back, check the shops for extra sirens, and then after a few more levels, then go back to Dwarf Castle and do that. Get through that, because you know there's there's 2 key items waiting for you there.
Looks like Min might have changed his mind a little bit, but it is heading up to Sylph Cave right now. So it looks like he's going to be checking that pan item here.
Yeah, I think just lost his bearings a little bit. Just wanted to was looking for it. He knows there's caves down here, but wasn't entirely sure which one was the correct one straight up. I think nerves are definitely there.
Well, yeah, and if you don't have the maps either handy or memorized, then remembering which one is which is not something. Like I take wrong turns in the Lunar subterranean almost every single time down. So, and I've played this game dozens upon dozens of times for over several years now. I've been playing this rando, so there's no excuse, but I still do it.
Yeah, I go through a door. I think, oh right, I've got to go right now, and I go left, and it's actually either left. I've got to go. Same. I know. Go through the next door. Okay, I've got to go left, and I go, and it's actually right. So very easy to make, especially in these maps. They're all fairly labyrinthine. Go and check those pan items. The Sylph's gave the ribbon, which is a fairly good piece of defensive gear. I think he's going to be happy about that. And just trying to remember where he's got to go next.
Yeah, no progression there, but definitely a useful piece of equipment. It's no ninja shirt.
Yeah, well, I think there's been a couple of those found, but really you don't want that. That's good money, and that's about it. Cassidy's through the alternative gauntlet, going to see if he goes straight into Bahamut. No, he's taking the save route.
Crystal Ring and Sand Ruby from Sheila. No progression, but that Sand Ruby can be turned in for an edge. So we'll see if Min takes this opportunity to change up his team.
Yeah. I think Cassidy was the one that checked Kaipo for the character. I don't think Min knows it's edge there.
Right.
But it's still a possible settle location.
Right. So might be checking at this point. And then we'll see whether or not, and it does look he's heading to Kaipo. So we'll see if he pulls the trigger on edge here.
I will be very surprised if he doesn't take him, and considering
at least for Edward
in his party.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think the best equipment we've found for Edge so far has been that mute dagger, because he can equip that.
And the seeds that we've had, the races and the seeds that we've had in the races is in the past, over the past week, have been fairly okay for Edge. We've found some fairly decent gear over the course of it.
Oh, he has a full moon as well, so that's a pretty good piece of equipment for him.
Not changed out to that dancing dagger. It's a little less power than the short katana, but it's actually got more accuracy, if I remember correctly. So might be worth it.
I like the mute dagger, especially if you find Edge even earlier than we do now. since it, as we mentioned when talking about it as a possible equip for Rydia, it increases his the black magic stat, so it would affect his ninja magic. So it would make his flame better. Looks like we might have a stream hiccup over on Min's side, but we still got Cassidy going here.
We've got double Cassidy.
Yeah.
But before that happened, I did see that he was going to Zot, so he's going to be picking up his Cecil very, very soon.
And it looks like Cassidy is taking care of Bahamut and will be entering the underground very shortly here.
And the reason for this, the stream drop is because Min has actually forfeited from the race. It seems. So, not 100% sure on how things turned out that way, but that is the case. Cassidy still sort of needs to finish though, unfortunately, for him. He can't just say, well, no, I can forfeit. No, he does need to actually win the seed to actually win the race still. But he's got through Bahamut. He's going down into the underworld now. He just needs to find the Luca key, find his actual bosses, and we will be okay. As far as I'm aware, Dismu, he has to finish. There has to be a finisher for the actual result to stand.
I don't know if Cassidy didn't realize until this point that he had already sold the siren because he went over there, looks like intending to crack an egg, but
yeah, he did delay a little bit. Oh, never mind. That he had and when he actually sold it, and thought, wait, did I did, but it had been a while. He had done Eblin and the hook route before that, so he probably forgot that he did.
And luckily he's in Dwarf, and it looks like in the shop here we do have more sirens for sale here. So Cassidy can grind as much as he wants.
He's got plenty of money for it as well. 25 sirens?
Yeah, Cassidy had been doing a ton of looting between Eblin, Cave, and Castle. Just has so much to sell, so much that he can spend, and now can loot or can shop to his heart's content.
I think what he's thinking is, I'm going to just get the levels I need. I'm happy with this team. If I'll just use this, just get to the end as soon as possible.
Well, I mean, get to the end as soon as possible. I think is kind of the MO of racing. But in this case, Cassidy can stroll to a leisurely finish, I guess.
Yeah, that is also on the table as well. But I think he's seen that forfeiting. A bit of a sigh of relief has happened on his part, because he didn't get to the underworld until after an hour. That's a long time.
That's true. So while Cassidy is doing this grind here, I want to give some shout outs to the people behind the scenes today. We do have Simbu doing the restream today. So big shout outs to Simbu. And on the tracking, we have Bakashinobi. So make sure you give a shout out to them who are making this possible for us to watch the race tonight.
Yeah. And for Rex here as well, who's been basically his normal self, just amazing. Follow him. He commentates on quite a few of these. He's an old hand at it, and it's always nice to hear his voice behind the mic.
And because he's calling me out, I'll just read Nwalmi's comment. No wonder Rex isn't reading my comments on air. Yeah, but that's just because I'm being good, yes. So now I'm being bad. But also big shout outs to my co-commentator, Poydrek, who in addition to doing commentary tonight has been doing a lot of the scheduling of the restreaming this week, been doing a lot of work. So thank you for that.
My way of thinking about that is someone needed to do it. We've got a lot of events going on with our admin team. They're involved in a whole lot of projects, especially coming up with and in the next couple of weeks. They deserve as much credit for getting this going as I do. Everyone's put in a whole lot of work, and it's worked out very well so far. And we've seen some amazing races, and better to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, be sure to check out. There's going to be a lot of VODs coming out from this week, and we've got 5 weeks of Swiss. So we're going to see a lot of races. Of course, we can't restream everything, but we're going to stream a lot. And just make sure if you can't watch it live, check it out when you can, because we're seeing some awesome strats already busting out in the races this week.
Yeah, and especially when they're not needed to be as well. Dia had no reason to bust out her Edward strats on the first time. She did it though. We've seen in reflex strats, we've seen in berserk strats, we've seen hybrid strats, we've seen in bosses in unusual locations that you've had to think about for. We've seen a whole load of things, and it's just going to get even more chaotic.
I saw a Thunderstrike Odin for getting past a hook crowd. That was impressive too. So we've just seen there's been a lot that's been going on, and it's only the first week of the Swiss, so there's a lot going on with this Fabul Gauntlet.
Yeah, and going back to just grind options, Cassidy is grinding on a whole bunch of eggs right now. We've seen a lot of different grind options as well. We've seen them on the moon, we've seen in D-Machine grinds. I believe there's been a couple of Mac Giant grinds, egg grinds. And my personal favourite at the moment is, under these settings, is the Warlock grind, which is possible. So, yeah, there's just because you're not going to see the same things each race. Okay, so definitely good to tune in just for that.
Right, and especially with this current version of Free Enterprise, now that, in this particular seed, we've got the sirens available pretty easy, so Cassidy's taking advantage of them. But that's not going to be the case in the grind options. Making sure you know what's available to you in order to get to the levels is going to be a big part of making it through, because you might have sirens in this one, but you've got 4 more rounds of Swiss, and are they going to be available in all of them? Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, that's true. We also had a Clapper grind earlier this week.
Yeah, Clapper grind is real. Arachne grind is real. There's just so many different things that you can do, and depending on who's in your party, like what conjurer, or I think they're conjurers in this one, do you want to do the Clapper or the Arachne? Could be a big deal.
Yeah, it was only there because Alternative Gauntlet was in the Queen of the Summon Monster spots.
Nice.
But it's a guaranteed fight rather than having to look for it.
Right.
Might as well take take that option if you don't have the other things available for it.
And that is a place that I've fought the alt gauntlet, so you see a lot of conjurers in that fight. And we see Dark Imps and Valvalis down at the bottom of the Fey March. Neither one of those is the CPU, so or Kainazo, so looks like not going to be a super high priority. One of them could be holding that Luca key, which would be required in order to unlock the sealed cave, which you still need to do as well. But it looks like a cabin is being used, so it looks like Cassidy is going to at least take on probably the Dark Imps.
I would say that would be the more desirable option. Got some coffins. Cecil, put him in the back row. Probably got enough defense now that can tank the hits. And if everyone's in critical HP, will cover.
Well, he used a cabin, so I think they're all going to be in full.
Yeah, but this spot does hit hard, so they could be in critical hit points very quickly.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, as they one-shot Kane, he's like, I gotta rethink my options here a little bit. Yeah, if this is another one of the things that in this version of Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, the Dark Imps, even in the King Queen Evelyn spot, in the past has generally been considered pretty much free since the hourglasses were so easily available and so cheap. And now that they aren't, dealing with 3 fast enemies that hit that fast is not trivial, even if you've got a bunch of coffins in your inventory. So be careful, use the back row if you can, and hope that the right character doesn't get punched. Because those Dark Imps are scary in the Leviathan spot.
They are, yes.
Since I believe that has the either the most or really up there with physical attack power, among the highest, if not the most, right?
It's tied first with the CPU spot.
Right.
So pretty much maximum.
And one of the weird things about Final Fantasy IV, if the vanilla boss doesn't use physical attacks, it's probably a strong physical attack spot.
and if it doesn't use magical attacks, it's usually a strong magical spot.
So weird.
Yeah. To answer your question, Bulleter, yes, she does have blink. However, if they attack quick enough, you're not actually going to get a chance to use it.
Yeah, blink might not be fast enough there. If you turn the battle speed way down, you might be able to use illusions if you have a stack of them. But I think they only have 1 in their inventory, so even that's not going to be a way to get down really well, or really, like, you're not going to be able to protect everybody with that.
Yeah, and plus with her spot on the ATB queue at the moment, I do believe she's going to be going last. So there's going to be at least 3, maybe 6 attacks coming off.
Even if she has that,
gets a turn.
Even if she's equipped with that heroin robe?
I believe so, yes. Because I believe Cecil's going first, and because the way ATB it does by ATB ticks, I think he'll just go in the particular in the level in the routing in the order of operation. So Cecil is in the number 1 spot, then it'll be Kane, then Yang, then Rydia, then Rosa. I don't want anyone to quote me on that because I'm likely wrong, but I do believe that's how it's going to be turning out at the moment.
Well, we've got quite a few more eggs cracked by Cassidy here, and we'll see where he decides to go next. It looks like going up to the tower, going to do Keyless Tower here, it looks like.
And thank you, Norway, for clipping what might be wrong. Mr. Bus Driver, we're not 100% certain, actually. All we know is that Min has had to forfeit and has disappeared. However, Cassidy does still need to complete this race to actually be given the win.
Oh, we do have a message from Min. I guess I should bring this up. It looks like Min was not expecting it to take this long, and basically ran out of time. It looks like so. Unfortunate there. So, but I mean that's understandable too. If you don't have the expectation, if you don't know exactly or how long it's going to take, you could this sort of situation could happen. But we're still going to root on Cassidy to finish out this one for sure.
Oh yeah. Wyvern up at the top half or the bottom of tower. Not too bad a spot for him.
It is kind of a bad spot if you don't have any star veils in your inventory, though.
True, but that Mega Nuke actually missed Rydia.
Right.
I don't think he saw it.
And I don't know, like that doesn't have a super high attack spot there. I don't know if it would have done it. Somebody might have survived. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty certain Young would have. I'm 95% certain Young would have survived it. 50% certain Cecil would have. Rydia definitely would have because it missed her. And then the nukes after that only hit for around about 800 max, I do believe, because that the magic power in that spot is very, very low.
Well, now Cassidy is going down to the Sylph Cave. Is going to get the ribbon and crystal ring and sand ruby through this chain. That ribbon may help another character dodge that Mega Nuke from Wyvern as well. Although I think if Cassidy decides to go back up the tower, he'll probably have bought more star veils before then.
Yeah, if he's made a note of where they are, that might be one of his first locations after handing the pan.
Deathis, I believe he saved at least mid-grind, if not post-grind.
Switching over to the Enterprise, likely going to be thinking about, oh, this could be a tail, but he's got both the tails. Okay, I didn't realise he picked up the pink tail. Where was that?
It must have been in the vanilla Baymarch chest, huh? Because I think that's the only one that we didn't see.
Yeah, that is the only place that hasn't that was different between Min and Cassidy at that point. So, yeah, that is likely.
Yeah, our tracker back at Shinobi confirms. So now Cassidy also has that option of picking up an edge if he wants. Now this is a much different party composition than Min had at this choice. What would you say? Would you want to pick up edge at this point?
After the grind that he's done, I would have to say no. Because it would mean more. Although you could pick up the levels with normal fight, with the remaining bosses that are needing to be done, and I would still say Young right now is perfectly adequate in his damage output. And trying to pick up the Falcon, I don't think it works that way.
Yeah, the hook is pretty strong to pick up the hovercraft, but not strong enough to pick up an airship.
There's definitely good reason to take edge at this point still. But it all really comes down to equipment found, I would say. And out of all the stuff that we found, I don't think we found anything actually decent for edge.
Right. If we were holding like a couple of swords, then you might want to consider them because those things are really strong. But if the best you've got is that full moon and mute dagger or dancing dagger, that's not all that big of a deal. Um, although I'm never one to say no to kicking out Yang from my party. So
You do have a certain moniker to you, don't you?
I mean I don't even follow my rules with that, but it's I gotta say it every now and then.
I'm personally a big believer in Yang, but only if you've got a way to grind him up.
Yeah, that's always my conceit. At the end game, it's very nice to have Yang.
And in this situation, you've given him levels, you've grinded him up. There's no reason to get rid of him right now. You've got some decent strength equipment as well.
Yeah, you've got a cat claw for him. That helps a lot. In the early game, I think you really need those elemental claws in order to hit the weaknesses to make them useful. And I think finding them is either a pain to go through as many shops or just dumb luck to find them in chests that I don't like them at all. Looks like it might be a moon trip here for Cassidy next.
Wouldn't be a bad play. He's got levels now. He's like now. I do believe he's got Cure 4 on Rosa. Got Bahamut. Got a number of good bruisers in terms of front line.
Yeah, I agree, and we know that none of the bosses that he's got access to on the blue planet are that CPU or the Kainatsu. So, yeah, I like this play.
Yeah, at least what we've seen. We haven't seen what's behind that Miss Dragon in Dwarf Castle.
Oh, yet. That's true.
But that's still just one boss, while up here there's 6.
And of course, we're looking for that Luca key as well, and there's a bunch of potential key item locations up here on the moon as well.
Yeah. So this is a very good. I think this is definitely the play to make in this situation, and get what's left of the levels needed, and then just go hunting for anything that shows up.
When we saw the lunar sparkle at the top of tower, did we? Oh no, that would show us for the boss of the Rubicante spot, not the. What about when we saw Tower of Zot? Did we see what that boss was in the second?
I don't remember seeing it. No, I don't remember paying attention to it when Cassidy went there.
So Cassidy might know what that second boss is. And if it's not CPU or Kainatsu, then I don't like. If it was CPU or Kainatsu, I bet Cassidy would make a much bigger priority of Dwarf Castle.
Yeah, if he had seen CPU or Kainatsu there, definitely would have taken the high road there.
Right, Rathan, we knew that the Yang's bodyguards were the second Zot fight, but the sprite that takes the Earth Crystal from you is usually Golbez, but whatever sprite is there, like if it's the Kainatsu sprite or the CPU sprite, then you'd know whoever the second Dwarf Castle fight is.
Well, held in spot.
We've got a Baigan.
Simbu predicted a rough fight. This is fairly rough.
Yeah,
I think it's okay, but I think it's but it's still going to be dangerous.
This is going to be really rough. We need this Bahamut to go up before Rydia dies.
Got a berserk off on Cecil, so I don't think it's going to be too bad. Wow, that vampire.
Yeah, that was close with that vampire.
I've not seen Vampire hit that low ever, actually. I've seen it in 50s and stuff, but not 18.
Okay, now we might have time to recover. We've got the Berserks coming up. That recover from Baigen came through real fast too.
Still do need to be careful on Rydia. Yeah, there could be a punch there, but Rydia is still ticking down because that Vampire does put the sap effect on her and will do up to a maximum of 200 additional damage, I believe.
And with Cecil being berserked, he's not going to cover like he normally would. Ooh, that is a high physical damage here too.
You don't really want to see Baigen in many spots, and this one is definitely one of the higher up locations you don't want him.
Yeah, Baigen's a scary boss in a lot of different places, without a doubt. But able to get through it, well played by Cassidy.
How much experience for each arm? Actually, not a whole lot. I believe Simbu's done the numbers, and I think even in the highest highest experience locations, you get practically nothing. It's not very good at all. So you don't want to be doing a Baigen arm grind or anything like that.
Yeah, that would be like for the most Kata-ish of Kata seeds, the Baigen arm grind.
If you have to do that, get a new seed. It's definitely no Dolls grind or CPU warp grind.
Well, we got a Legend Sword, which could be half of an Excalibur if we find the Adamant, but not the Luca Key, and we still have the 2 boss hunts out.
You definitely wouldn't pass up an Excalibur at this point. Cecil is very much online right now, doing fairly decent damage with that lightsaber, but the upgrade would be helpful.
Yeah, the Light Sword being, I think, number 4 on the list of swords.
Yeah.
And Excalibur being number 2. It is a significant upgrade from Light to Excalibur.
Yeah, I believe it's an extra 50% attack power. So, yeah.
And that's not even including the Avenger, which is kind of special in how it's used. So.
Rydia is still doing fairly well. That very much still geared up for magic, and those Bahamut's will be doing something like 8,000 to 9,000 damage, even up here. So, yeah, no, I don't think there's going to be any real divergence in what the strategy for Cassidy is. Just punch, well, maybe for this fight, mostly just punch away and then just see where they are at afterwards.
And we got the 3 hits from the Dark Wave of Dark Knight Cecil. And now we learn that justice is not the only way to this world. And that's going to be it. This is going to be a cool 100k experience.
Yeah. I think it should. Yeah, it would have been best to get Rydia up with a life potion after that last Dark Wave, but I think he's going to be mostly focusing on berserking people.
Right.
White robe. That's a much needed upgrade for Rosa.
Yeah, by switching from the heroine robe to the white robe, her white magic is just going to be going through the roof.
Yeah, especially when you don't need her doing anything but berserking and casting Cure 4 right now.
Yeah, she's still equipped with a short bow. That heroine robe wasn't really... It was affecting her speed. She was able to go faster with it. And in some spaces, she could get in first and maybe get a berserk off earlier, but really, that white robe is just so much more valuable.
Yeah, with no other stat increases available, it'll make a significant difference.
So we see the pale dim in the vanilla plague spot. Of all the boss locations on the moon, I think this is usually the safest of them, but that doesn't mean it's a pushover.
No, this spot still has a fairly high physical damage output. It's not...
Which makes sense because plague does not do a physical attack.
Yep. It's not the highest, but you're still damaging. But Cassidy has switched out from Bahamut to Quake, which is a very good thing because Pale Dim likes to counter summons with Quake.
Yeah, most of the Lunar bosses you do not want to use summons against.
Plague is the only one that does not counter, but that's because he's got a very particular script. I like the fact that I was saying about Bahamut still being able to do a whole lot of damage here, and the next two bosses have been enemies that you don't want to be using Bahamut against.
Right.
Thanks, game. I know you love me.
Well, that was fortuitous that Rydia did learn Quake just recently, so that really helps, so that she can contribute in this fight. And Plague, Pale Dim goes down without too much of a problem. Ooh, that is a nice pickup if it's not going to be progression. That's a crystal sword.
Well, forget about that Excalibur we were talking about earlier. Have Cecil's ultimate weapon. The thing is, it's still not the way to the end of this seed.
Yep, we're still looking for the CPU, still looking for Keinatsu, and still looking for that Luca key. And we haven't even found any progression up here, so it's not like we've found any way to unlock anything else on the blue planet yet.
Yeah, the key items we've been wanting to open things up have been fairly lacking in showing themselves. Anything would be nice right now for Cassidy to say, "Oh right, I've got this option now. I'm running out of places here. Where am I going next?"
Well, we know right now next is the vanilla Ogopogo spot, and what do we see here? We see Plague. Ooh, this is kind of a scary Plague. You're gonna have to use your I believe Cassidy has a kamikaze in his inventory. With that, you can manipulate your character by using that, since that'll basically sacrifice your character to deal damage equal to its HP to the enemy, and then you can revive them using a life potion, and then Plague says, hey, one of the characters doesn't have count, so better apply count again, and that gets on all of your characters for the full 10 count again. But looks like try to just going with attack and did not have enough power to take Rydia out in one hit, so the reset comes.
The defense power of Rydia that we were vaunting at the very start of the seed that you needed on her has come back to bite Cassidy. Going with the cursed ring. It's on Cecil, who is in the center spot, so this may slow the count down a little bit. Really, you want to get have that control. He's off in Rydia before the fight, so he doesn't need to do it in the middle. And that heat ray will help, as well as curing Cecil up to full.
That is one of the things that the cursed ring does. Turns a.
He might want to run from this fight as well. Wow. I'm surprised he couldn't get away there.
Well, the red Ds are some of the strongest random encounters in the game. Like, I think that's a smart plan to try to have the character knocked out before the battle, but doing it on that floor is just so risky. Those monsters are just so dangerous.
And now he's got into another one here, and I believe this is the best fight to find, but also the worst fight to find right now.
Well, I think it'll be easier to run from than that red D, but we'll see.
Rydia is tanking those hits.
All right. I think mission's been accomplished right now.
Yeah.
You might want to make sure you go back in and turn off those random encounters, because you wouldn't want another one now, would you?
That would be a very good idea. Does he remember that? Also healing up after that. Encounters. And he's just remembered. Mostly because he's found one. But you don't. It's plague. You don't really need to worry about healing up before that fight. Actually, being lower health is better.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, it's hard to think on the fly sometimes about something like that, because you're just so used to, I'm going into a boss fight, I need to be as strong as possible, so you heal up, not even considering that your HP total does not matter during the flag fight.
Which is one of the staples of most of the moon bosses. Your hit point amount doesn't matter. Wyvern, Plague, Ogopogo, even the D-Lunars who do percentage-based attacks. It doesn't matter. What matters is you keeping track of what attacks are coming next.
I think the whole idea behind the suite of bosses in the Lunar Subterrane is make it so that whatever you would just normally do for most of the bosses throughout the game, you have to adjust your strategy. And so that's why you see something different from all of these bosses. And they're different from each other as well. So whether it be not spamming summons because they're just so powerful, or not relying on just being able to deal as much damage as you normally would at the beginning, or worrying about healing up before the plague fight. These are just not strategies that are as helpful as they are against most of the traditional bosses that you've been fighting throughout most of this game, and then, which makes the Lunar Subterrane particularly difficult.
Yeah. Fun little bit of luck for Cassie there. Kane lost his life to the count, but no one else did, so doesn't need to worry about putting Rydia back down on the floor or to re-raise her.
Now we're just hoping that another count will come in before this current count wears down and kills off these 4. Or Plague can go down too. That helps.
That sort of is the name of the fight there.
Yeah, that works. Just an arty bow. Considering the party makeup, that's just not particularly useful, I don't think.
No, not at all. But you said this is a very barren moon. It's still proving that way.
Yeah, one might say that it's haunted. But we still have the vanilla wyvern spot available to us, and the Bahamut spot. So we've got a couple of places still to check.
Yeah. So let's say the Bahamut spot and the Wyvern spot give nothing.
Right.
Where would you go next?
I think it's got to be Dwarf Castle, right? Because we've got, well, assuming Cassidy knows that it's not Keinatsu or CPU in the second one, we still have 2 potential key item checks right there between the demist and the regular Dwarf Castle key item. So that's 2 things to check that might lead to either the Luca key or the boss that we're looking for. So I think that would be where I would go next.
Yeah. Well, one from Cassidy's point of view, because it was Min that saw demist there the first time. But we know it's true. But I would say, yeah, that's definitely the location that would go on my mind. The other alternative is with these levels, the Land of Summon Monsters, the 2 bosses there, are definitely in play now.
That's absolutely true. I mean, any of the places in the on the blue planet that are available shouldn't be too much of a problem. I mean, that Valvalus in the vanilla Ashura spot is annoying, but I don't think it's going to be too difficult anymore now that we've got all these extra levels on us.
And as long as you keep Ape Cecil's hit points high, the punches won't really do that much. Because Cecil will be able to cover, because Valvalis always starts off with weak. I saw here the problem is the Cure 4 head, but even that isn't going to be too bad because his attack powers are so high right now, he's doing so much damage that Cure 4 will actually not do a whole lot. Because once it gets to a certain point, it just doesn't heal for some reason.
This Rune X from Kane is also just doing insane damage.
Yeah, that's definitely a big help right now. I think there was a blink coming up from Rosa onto Kane, which would have just secured that fight. So
I think another thing is I don't think Cassidy unequipped the curse string from Cecil, so he wasn't doing quite as much damage as he could do because of the stat negatives from the curse string.
Makes sense, but it's a crystal sword, and he's got a fair amount of decent strength gear anyway. I don't think is too bad.
We see the package as the key item. There is a boss at the end of it. It could be that that's where Keinatsu or CPU is headed, but that is a long check. I imagine that is going to be on the back end of checks along with the Giant of Babel. But who knows? Cassidy could go in any of these places next. But it looks like first we're seeing the Bahamut Cave.
finish up the checks on the moon, and definitely makes sense. Might go to giant on the way down, so doesn't need to worry about that before going to the rest of the places on the blue planet.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. Since we've got 2 boss hunts that we're looking at, and this is a lunar sparkle in the Bahamut spot.
Yeah, so go or D-Lunars.
We got the D-Lunars. Both of them are pretty nasty in the Bahamut spot. This is a very high HP spot. So getting through a lot of it. Luckily, we've got a Crystal Sword Cecil. We've got Quake. I mean, we might not use... Yeah, Bahamut. It's not as bad on these. What just triggers their remedy, right?
Yeah, they counter with remedy, which is a single target heal for 10% of their hit points. 10% is not more than what Bahamut will do right now.
Right. But it looks like Cassidy is avoiding that Crystal Sword attack. Doesn't want to trigger the virus script of the D-Lunars. So it's just kind of relying on Rydia to deal the damage here, it looks like.
Strangely, virus isn't actually that bad in this spot. Mostly because the walls don't last that long. And then they're virus in themselves.
Yeah, we see Rydia try to use Toad on the D-Lunars. They can be turned into frogs, but not via the Toad spell. You see that breath that turned Kane, Cecil, and Yang into Toads. You can actually reflect that, and if you reflect that, then the D-Lunars will turn into the Lunar Frogs, and they're very easy to deal with at that point. But failing that, you're not going to turn them into frogs in another method.
Nah. It's because breath is a multi-target status effect attack, and for some reason the check that it can't be reflected doesn't actually happen. So though you can reflect it, goes back to them, and it bypasses the boss bit.
And white deals a lot of damage against these undead dragons. So we get past that, and what do we get rewarded with? There's that Luca key. So we find something that we absolutely needed on the moon, because if we're going to unlock the Seal Cave, we need that Luca key. So that is a relief that it wasn't all for naught here on the moon.
Value in Cave Bahamut. You're welcome.
So now we've got a couple of bosses that we've got to find.
Yeah, that's the big kicker right now. We've got 2 bosses and a whole load of places where they could be.
And it looks like Cassidy is going right back to the blue planet, so not going to the giant quite yet. We'll see if we might go straight to that sealed cave, unlock it, and then check to see what the boss is down there and see if that's something that we need.
Yeah, that definitely seems like the first place to go. Get that objective out of the way. Check the boss. If it's what you want, brilliant. If the item gives you progression, even better. If neither turn out, just reset, open the door again, and then continue on your way.
And with that, objective 4 is complete. And Cassidy is venturing down to the bottom of the sealed cave. So we will at least check that boss.
I think if I was looking at how many key items were left and how many spots that they can be in, statistically, I would have to say this is very likely to be a progression item.
That's a good point as well.
Because we're still looking for that twin harp, which can lead to bosses, can lead to one boss. Baron key, which leads to 3. The tower key, which leads to 1. And there's still a lot on the table in terms of that.
And there you see Cassidy remembering that he still had that curse ring equipped to Cecil.
I don't think he's going to mind that he had it on for that, for the remainder of that moon. And now, not really needed, but for the moon, there were some fairly nasty encounters up there.
We got the magma key. That is not progression.
Of all the ones that you wanted, that would have probably been the least desirable. The thing is, he hasn't saved since the moon. So he can't just walk out, he just can't reset out of this, he's got to walk it out.
Well, luckily this Karate Man isn't going to be too much of a problem for him.
No, after the second kick, one little bop on the head from Cecil, and this fight will be done. Doesn't mean you can't give him a big walloping from everyone else, though.
Ouch.
Should have waited until Rosa threw out the white as well.
Yeah, I would have liked to see that. Beowulf, I wouldn't quite say it's required yet. Top of tower is Wyvern, which we haven't seen beaten yet, so that could lead to a key item that could lead to a boss that we need. We also have the potential key items from the bosses at the bottom of the Land of Summoned Monsters. The Baron key is still out there, and there's 2 bosses down there, and those could be that we haven't seen yet, and those could be Kainatsu and CPU. So.
Do you happen to remember what the boss was at the start of the game?
My stream was frozen at that time, so about the first 5 minutes of the stream, I was just bouncing off what you were saying.
Well, let's put it this way. I don't pay attention to that boss when I really, really should do, and I have no idea.
Maybe Bakashinobu or Simbu saw it. Or Sarcasm says it might have been Luge. So. It looks like Cassidy wants to grind a little bit more here.
Maybe just looking that nuke.
Yeah, we're at the 10 key item mark, so we're getting 2 times experience here. These eggs doing twice as much. So yeah, if we're grinding, it might be that grind to nuke on Rydia here. That would make some sense.
I don't think it's really necessary, considering there's still a few places that give high experience. The bosses on the giant. And so I don't think it's completely necessary, but it's a nice little thing to have really with that particular spell.
That, and you might as well be as comfortable as you want. I mean, basically all you have to do at this point is complete the seed, and you've got the 1 because of the unfortunate forfeit from Min. So no pressure, right?
Yeah, that little mini grind there, and where he's going right now, giant is the play for him.
Yeah, it looks like we're looking at a giant.
This might be just to say, I want this off the table. I want to make sure they're not there now. If they are here, brilliant. If not, I know where they're not.
Yeah, lots of people rooting for K-Nazo. K-Nazo is particularly nasty in the element spot. Since his wave attack is based on his current HP, and that spot has a huge HP pool.
It is max for what the game can give it, so 65,000 and change. So the waves do around about 2,000 damage, just over that. Rydia will not survive it. Rosa should. Everyone else definitely will. But if two of them come very quickly, with this spot being very fast, there's going to be a wipe very soon.
Well,
and the answer is
CPU.
It's required still, and you don't want CPU in this spot either.
No, you do not.
But it's nowhere near as bad as what Kenyatsu could have been.
Yeah, this spot is not really dangerous, but totally annoying.
Because as you saw there, that remedy did 6,500 hit points, which means the CPU has 65,000 hit points. The attacker and defender have around about 30,000 each.
So it looks like what Cassidy is setting up is Cassidy wants to go with a berserk strat. And normally, berserking is not something that you can do against the CPU, because if you kill both of the small orcs, the attacker and the defender, then the CPU will use Globe 199, kill a couple of characters, and then revive the attacker and the defender. You just have to start over again. However, Cassidy used Blink on the attacker, so it's gonna Blink does the same thing on the enemies as it does on you. So it's gonna dodge a couple of attacks. So if the berserk attacks that hit the attacker miss, hopefully you'll have enough time to re-up that berserk before, or that blink before the attacker gets hit again. So
this requires a little bit more of a luck thing, but it's not that bad. It's definitely a nice little way of playing around it. These mazes are doing a fair amount of damage, considering 300 each one, because it's 10% of your max hit points each time. But Rosa with Cure 4 and plenty of MP in reserve should be okay.
looks like might have changed his mind on that berserk strategy. Oh no, there goes that blink again. Looks like definitely wants to do something with that.
Might have just been holding off on the berserk a little bit until the CPU's lower health, just so you don't have to do it as much.
Okay, looks like there comes that berserk. And I imagine that Cecil would be the only one that that he berserks in this fight, but I guess it wouldn't be out of the question to berserk Yang as well.
Yeah. Jumping with Kane is probably the best choice here, and just powering with Yang. Let Cecil do the berserk.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably how I would handle this as well, if I was going to go for berserk strategy. Now, my preferred way of dealing with a long CPU fight is go all out with either Meteo or Bahamut and just tank the and revive after the Globe 199s, but that's just because I'm lazy and don't want to set up anything like this.
It works in a few occasions, in a few places. Definitely can't knock that really. Cecil's not cooperating with his attacks, unfortunately. Has got through the blink on the attacker.
Oof. All right, didn't quite kill the attacker, and the blink is re-upped, so.
You'd think the Berserk person would go after the bigger target.
That Berserk Cecil is just mighty upset about that attacker.
Well, it has done a fair amount of damage. You can't really...
That's true. The CPU's done 0 HP damage to the party. Simbu bringing up a good point. Sylph would be a nice one to cast. Sylph gets around the wall that the CPU has on it, and it will heal so that you don't need to worry about the Mazer finishing up the party.
One of my favourite uses of Sylph is up against this CPU fight, right? Because especially at this sort of stage where really has got a whole load of wisdom, the Sylph will do around about 2,000 damage, and that's a fair amount of healing to you as well.
Yeah, it should be enough to keep ahead of the attacker's Mazer. But that's one of those things where it's like, if you haven't used the Sylph Summon so much, and you're not familiar with its properties, you might not be ready to use it against the CPU in a place like this.
Even bringing out a kick. Okay. Was that a misclick or actually intended?
I imagine it was a misclick, but... Ferocitas, Min ran out of time. Had some other things that he had to do, so unfortunately wasn't able to finish it. But in order for Cassidy to get credit for the win, he has to finish the seed. So that's what we're seeing here. That's why we're all rooting for him. And he did beat the CPU, now just to take out this attacker. And Cecil definitely wants to take out the attacker. Unfortunately, Yang gets the frag, though.
So that's the fourth objective down. Just one more. Kenyatta.
Would you consider it lucky or unlucky if Kenatsu is in the vanilla CPU spot?
I'd actually say it's lucky, because then this giant play, which he pretty much said, okay, I'm just going to check it off just to make sure that things are here or not, was the play to make all along.
That's true. I tend to agree with you. I just think like the two bosses that we're hunting for are at notoriously difficult spots. But this one has significantly less HP. The waves wouldn't be as scary. Oh, Mom Bomb. And Cassidy doesn't even want to think about fighting Mom Bomb at that spot.
That play is good.
I agree.
Completely agree with what he's doing here. He's got through the first fight. He's done the objective. Brilliant. And all I need to do now is find Kenyatta. So this doesn't give me a key item at the end of it. It only gives me a character, which I don't really need.
Yeah, Cassidy's got to be very happy with his party at this point. So
yeah, I've got. If this is my boss, I'll take it. If it isn't, I'll take the other way out.
Well, I mean, falling is faster than walking if you don't have to do a fight before falling. And that Mom Bomb fight would be dangerous and long.
And just landing the whale there, the Falcon's right next to him. He doesn't need the hook anymore. He can just do everything he wants from the Falcon itself. So, very nice little placement that he probably didn't intend, but he'll take.
Also, considering it looks like he is going to switch over to the Enterprise anyways, but since he's already completed Tower of Zot, that's the only other place where using the Falcon can really be a hiccup in the plans, because then the Enterprise or the Falcon, the Enterprise will automatically move to Baron, but the Falcon will stay in that one spot, and so you have to do a little bit more of a long walk if you want to get to Toria.
Yeah, can be a bit of a pain.
Yeah, it's just a little annoyance. It's not the end of the world.
Bahamut is all over this seed.
Yeah. And we've got a Porum here. Unless Cassidy really wants to get an agility anchor and take Porum and just basically keep her knocked out let her sleep on the ground for the rest of the seed. I don't imagine that he's going to take her at this point.
I would be very surprised. I think he's just going to go, I've got an amazing team here, just as I have, just with the same thinking up on the giant. I don't need another character. I'm just here for the boss.
Oh, I agree. I think that would be the only reason. If Cassidy does decide to end up taking Porum, I think that would be the reasoning. But I don't expect him to do that.
One thing that I might consider, because it is Porum, and this is sort of going along with Ralphian's thing here. I've got a curse ring. Give Porum a few levels for Berserk, and then just let her, so she gets the initial Berserk off in the Romus fight. Saves Rosa having to do it. Do each of them, but not high enough that she loses that one agility mark.
I mean, I don't think that there'd be anything wrong with doing something like that. I don't think that's what Cassidy's going to do at this point.
Oh my word!
Whoa!
This Cassidy is just gone away for this seed.
Well done there, and that is objective number 5 completed. Cassidy rewarded with the crystal and in official go mode.
That's not Galaxy Brain Play. That's way above. That is
Universe Brain.
He has done nothing else but the things he needs. That is amazing.
Yeah, and I don't think Cassidy needs anything else, I imagine. Might rearrange the party, re-equip some things. Not sure, but we'll probably go right to Zeramus is my guess.
Yeah, back to the moon. Take that long walk, and finish it up.
Oh yeah, no pass. We haven't found that. We're gonna have to walk.
I wouldn't be surprised if the pass is actually that Mist Dragon.
Could be, or either of those bosses down in Feymarch, yeah. Behind Wyvern. Like, there's several key item spots that are open right now to be checked. Cassidy, able to avoid all of them. Like, going and checking the package and the giant earlier.
Yeah. The thing that gets me about this is we could have been here for so long if he hadn't just made those checks. There's
really
still a whole
point.
lot of the seed in this. This could have easily been a 3-hour slog just for those out of the way bosses.
When you're looking, so this is something while this walk is going on, I might as well ask you, because this is one of those things where we're dealing with one-on-one races where it's a win or a loss. versus where a lot of the other tournament structures and like the weekly races, you're racing against 10, 20, 30 other people in a race. So do you play conservative or do you go riskier? I think there's a lot of runners who would just totally avoid the giant unless they absolutely had to go there, because there's just so little other reward. Like you're not getting a key item out of that check. So when do you pull the trigger? Do you not pull the trigger until you absolutely have to? What's your thought on that?
Personally, that giant play wouldn't have happened until very close to the end for me.
Yeah.
Okay. But my thinking behind that would be other spots are quicker.
Sure.
For the giant, I'd have there's two checks there. The first one is long because it's a very high hit point spot. It's a very dangerous spot depending on what's there. The second, and then you'd have to go through the second one as well if it's required.
Right.
The other ones are a little bit quicker, and you can check them off one after the other. That's my thinking behind it. What other people have their own takes on it, for certain, and yeah, the play that Cassidy made today, they would be top of their list. Let's get the harder checks out of the way first, and then go, or the more uncommon checks out of the way first before moving onwards.
Right, and I think the other thing is like, especially I've got enough experience levels under my belt that I feel comfortable doing these difficult spots. So let's go ahead and knock them out. It's it is really interesting just because of that dynamic shift from the other events to this one, the 1v1 versus big group races. So it's just gonna, I think that's an interesting twist to this event than we've seen in other events that we've had in pre-enterprise.
But I'm also one of the ones that go 100% on boss hunts. So please don't do what I do.
Fair enough, Poiter. But I believe that you probably have a question that you've got to ask it about this time.
I don't usually ask that question. What question is that?
Oh, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Oh, that question.
Yeah.
No, I still don't usually ask it. I usually get that from the other person.
So do I, because I usually say after it that it's butt time. So. But here we are. We're in the final fight. Cassidymoen's there. We've got a Crystal Sword Cecil, and that's usually what you need in order to beat Zeramus.
Has put the cursed ring onto Cecil. I don't think it's going to really change too much because Yang is going to be doing around 3,000 damage per hit. Kane's there, and so is Rydia.
Yeah, Kane, I think, is still stuck with that Rune Axe, which isn't the best, but I thought maybe it was on Min's screen. I thought we have Gargamel, but I thought we saw Dragoon Spear somewhere.
Yeah, that was from the Pink Dell. He definitely has it, but he might have sold it for something earlier. But I think this is the third time we've seen Gargamus in this first round.
Well, it looks like a little too fast for Cassidy. Going to go ahead and reset. Going to change some things up, I think.
Yeah, definitely take off that cursed ring. Don't need it for this. Let Cecil just go to town. It's actually speeding in Zeramus up to relative 1, while without it will be relative 2. So you definitely don't want that cursed ring in this particular setup.
Yep, those are definitely some numbers. So yeah, looks like Gargamel might just have a thing for the Fabul Gauntlet here.
Well, doesn't everyone?
Well, I mean, it seems like he's got a bad attitude because he wants to stop the heroes.
Fine by me, we'll just beat him up every time.
Bullets, the cursed ring, there's like cutoff points in the for Zeramus where if you're talking about 28 agility for Cecil, if you're just under it, then Zero Miss is going to be really fast. If you're just over it, he'll be really slow. Well, really, I mean, he's always pretty fast no matter what. But that's kind of where it is, where I think that curse string was bringing him down between the 20 and 28 point, where Zero Miss is really fast.
Yeah, especially compared to your team. One versus, I think it would be 3s or 4s.
Right.
You'd really need a whole lot of luck in terms of getting things off. And yeah, that Dragoon Spear is in his inventory. He's probably just forgotten about it.
Yeah. I think if he really wanted to deal with the curse string and agility anchoring, it would probably be best to put Rydia in the middle and put her on the curse string, but because I think she has the lowest natural agility of everyone in the party.
In this party, yes. I think the small issue with that is he hasn't backrow glitched any of his front line. So
right.
They wouldn't be able to do any damage from that back row.
Right, and he's got the tools to back row glitch Cecil with the bows and arrows that Rosa has, but he never did it, so I think it's probably best just to go like this and without the curse string.
Not using that chance to berserk, I think that might be a little bit of a difference maker there. Much better to get people underway and get going. Oh, there is a Barkos Wine, so Cecil's just about to go ham anyway. But that first berserk lets it come round to Rosa again for a cure 4, and things probably would have been okay.
Yeah, I wonder if Cassidy thought he was going to be able to get that cure 3 in before the Big Bang hit, but with the nerfed Big Bang, Kane had enough to tank both that counter nuke and the Big Bang at the same time.
Yeah, and to answer D-Smooth, 14 is good too? No, it isn't. 14 is one of the worst agilities you can get. Anything below 28, unless it's the number 1, is bad.
Paletta, why Rune Axe and not Dragoon Spear? Our guess is Cassidy just forgot about it.
Okay, Simbu. Maybe not only 1, but the lower it is okay. But 14 is definitely not good. Really, if you're going from a basics standpoint, and you're not too familiar with the way agility setup is, go with really over 28 or as low as possible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Ooh, that black hole is at an unfortunate time as Rydia just targeted a nuke towards herself with a wall on, so that's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but I don't think it's too much of a worry. I think it's just make sure those berserks get reapplied. I get especially on Cecil, hitting for those thousands, and just go from there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned too much about Rydia at this point either.
Oh, don't worry. Simbu's been on about me about a lot of things that I get wrong since the very beginning, and in almost all occasions he's right. Go with what he says rather than what I do.
Yeah, Simbu is a wealth of knowledge on this game.
Sometimes you don't understand his answers, but he's definitely the go-to person for strategies and understanding what is going on in the game.
So at this point, yeah, it looks like Cassidy is going to try to revive Rosa here. I think with the two... Well, I guess with this black hole, we do probably have time to... I might just even consider just re-upping the Berserks and not even worrying about healing, because I think with as much damage has been dealt so far, we might be getting close to being able to do it without even worrying about it.
Yeah,
with that nuke, though, I don't know.
Yeah, that is a straight-up nuke, so we are in the second phase. So we can... and Cecil should be close to... Gargamus should be close to the meteor phase with all the damage that Cecil's been outputting.
Yeah, this should be completed relatively soon here by Cassidy. Again, just some good plays overall. Taking advantage of the sirens of the underground to make sure you're at the level to clear the moon. Finding that loop key on the moon to get the one... to get the required item there, and then doing that play of going to the giant and cashing in the package before other things just made it... that's basically the story of this seed.
Yeah. It's been a very much power overwhelming seed. Bahamut did a whole lot of damage in the first part. Once Cecil came along, he took over a little bit. Kane's been throwing his weight around. And same with Yang, and Rosa's been there just supporting everyone.
And there's the flash. Cassidy has won, looks like an official time of 2 hours, 29 minutes, 44 seconds for Cassidy. GG's on the finish today.
He had to get. He still had to get through the seed. It wasn't a sure thing, even with that forfeit, because we don't give things out for free today, or ever. Not in Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise. But yeah, that was definitely a rough seed, and it wasn't really rough in terms of how things turned out, but where things were. CPU was in a spot you didn't really want to fight him. Kenyatso was a spot you don't really want to check. Even the key to the sealed cave was in a place not many people really want to go to in the Bahamut spot. So we're just going to see if Cassidy wants to come into it for an interview, and then we'll see what we're doing next. And well, we've got something special for you lined up.
Yeah. So once we're done here, looks like Cassidy is not going to be able to do an interview. So just want to say once again, GG's to Cassidy on the run. But we're gonna keep you right here. So just go ahead, and because we've got it's still Fabul Gauntlet related, but we're gonna keep you right here.
Yeah, we've got something a little bit special. It's not a live match, but we're going to go a little bit back in time. I'll let the commentators actually just explain it for themselves when they turn up. So stay tuned. We will be back again in around about 15 minutes.
Yep.
So we will see you again very soon.
Yeah, thanks to everybody who helped us tonight behind the screen, and my partner Poydrek, and thank you for watching.